What's up, man?
Sorry, I just wanted to cough before the podcast starts.
Cool, right. Well, now we're live. So
Right, that's good. That's good that we hadn't started.
yeah,
How's
we
it
missed
going?
the coughing.
Yeah, how's it going, man?
Yeah, good, dude. How you doing?
Yeah, I'm all right. Obviously, we were going to do a little cheeky podcast on Pokemon Go. Yeah, I just kind of wanted to talk a bit about my experience with it. Absolutely hammered it for like 3 or 4 weeks when it first came out, and thought there were some pretty interesting things that came from that. Like especially how it was just a massive phenomenon when it first came out. Like it was everywhere. It was a bit weird.
Yeah, definitely. Well, we spoke about it once before, didn't we? And I just, well, you'll tell me about it, sort of thing. Tell me about it now. But you seem to have a completely different experience than I think I would have done with it. But yeah, I couldn't believe it because I didn't play it when it first came out, sort of thing, and I had no plans to. So I sort of heard a lot about the game through basically you and a few other people that I knew that were playing it, sort of thing, which is interesting because I don't know, like apart from you playing it yourself, like it'd be difficult to get. I don't know. It's interesting to hear what other people thought of it, and hear. I didn't realize until people said sort of thing how big and how popular and how much it completely took off.
Yeah, I think especially like through like social media and news outlets and stuff. Like it was just everywhere. Like you couldn't stop fucking reading about it. And I had no plans to play it either. But then I think just with all the hype of it and hearing about it, I don't know. I never really got into like any games on my phone or anything before, so I thought I'd check it out. Played the games when I was younger and stuff. So I thought I'd give it a shot and see what all the fuss is about. Like it's such a massive phenomenon. It's like, what the hell is this about? So yeah, for anyone that doesn't know what Pokemon Go is or was, well, that'd be pretty weird.
Was
Yeah,
is
like
it gone now?
I guess because it's like was to me. Like I haven't played it in so long, it seems like a past tense thing. Just shut that part of my brain down. It was sort of tailored towards playing that. But yeah, you'd have had to have been in a pretty deep cavern somewhere at the bottom of the sea to not have heard anything about it, I think.
Yeah, pretty much. Like I saw there's parodies all over. People on and again, it was weird for me because I've got no direct experience of the game as such, apart from like seeing it on other people's phones, sort of thing. But I saw it on the television, I saw it on the news, I saw it on Pornhub, shit like that. Like there's loads of different parody videos and stuff.
Yeah.
And it was like stuff like that. It was just it seemed to sweep over like loads of different forms of media. Do you know what I mean? And it's like I said, it was interesting for me because I only saw it like third hand or second hand. Do you know what I mean? I was from some porn girl dressed up as Pikachu in this thing, and someone was like catching her and shit like that. All these sort of like really funny things. Like seeing it second and third hand through other people's, you know what I mean, other people's experience of it. And obviously, I've not personally not seen anything like that that's gone like it went viral in that way that things seem to. You know what I mean, where they just explode in popularity. Excuse the porn, obviously explode in popularity, but
Yeah,
stuff like that, mate. It literally fucking jizzed all over, didn't it? It went everywhere.
Braid all over the internet.
Yeah. That's it. So yeah, so
yeah, so it's basically it's a free to play augmented reality game for your smartphone. Augmented reality, I guess, being where you use your camera and you kind of obviously look at the real world, but there is a computer generated like skin that's put over the top of it, which will have like certain game mechanics on. So like there'd be like a Pokemon that'd appear within the game world, but you would like sort of lift up your phone and scan around and you'd see an actual Pokemon on your screen. It'd look like it was over there by that fucking lamppost or on that old lady's head or some shit. And you'd have to like, do some sort of interactive swipe or flick or whatever, poke the old lady in the eye.
Is that what the best ones were? On
What?
elderly people.
Yeah,
They like grew the best ones that came out of them and that.
Yeah, only the legendary Pokemon were like on the old lady's hat. Yeah. So it made this interesting real world dynamic where old ladies didn't know what was going on, but people just surrounding them in the street.
This just sounds like you just confessed into some basically social crime where you harangued old people, man. You're digging yourself a hole here, dude.
It's a victimless crime.
Apart from that old woman who was definitely a victim of you.
Yeah, she was a direct victim, but I didn't care about that.
So,
But
so
yeah,
the best ones are on old people, yeah.
yeah, they were, and are, I guess. I don't know why it's always past tense.
Yeah.
But I don't know. I think it was like a bit of a phenomenon because it was kind of this perfect storm of like novelty, with it being like a new sort of thing with the combination of the GPS and the augmented reality, where you're kind of playing in the real world, like you're actually walking to real world locations to achieve something in the game world. That was a little bit of a novelty, at least in terms of it being quite accessible to the masses. I'm sure, I think there has been predecessors to it, but nothing that's taken off in this way. So there was that novelty. There was the nostalgia, obviously, like our generation grew up with like all the trading cards and the video games and the TV show and all that shit, all the merchandise and stuff like that. That was all pretty big. So there's that nostalgia, which generally tends to pull people in.
Yeah, definitely. I've noticed that in so many things. Interesting you said it because I was thinking the other day, revamping like old films and shit like that. Like that new Blair Witch, the remake came out yesterday, and I think like the original Blair Witch is probably one of my favorite horror films. You know, because it messes with your head, sort of thing. It's like a bit of a niche one. Like some people really don't like it because actually, if you look at it, very realistic, very little happens or very little jump scares and that. But yeah, I was thinking that that nostalgia market, getting people back into it, like revamping old stuff or remaking old films like Final Fantasy VII and stuff like that. Like that's a definite trend at the moment, isn't it?
Big time. Like Final Fantasy VII, perfect example. Like amount of hype and stuff that's drawn up. Like I don't know, probably wouldn't be interested in that game if it had exactly the same game mechanics by the same people, but it had a different skin on it. But because it's got the sort of skin and soundtrack and characters and story as a game that I enjoyed when I was younger, I'm really interested in that to see how it turns out.
Is it? Sorry, just not to interrupt you again, but it's not going to be the same. I've seen a few things in the demo, and it's like it's a completely different game. It's using the same people or the same rough story. If you remember the original one, there was a cross-dressing scene. There was a bit where the main character gets basically he has like a group sex with about 10 different men. In the start of the thing, Don Cornelio's mansion, and there's a side quest, and you get these like silky knickers for having sex with these 5 men and shit like that, and it's like. It's going to be almost a completely different story, probably using the same characters and something else.
I think the sex is a little bit implied. I don't know if there's a definite like, look at that cock up his ass.
Don't ruin this for me, Mike.
You was on Pornhub again, man. That was the different version.
Yeah, I just spent a lot of time masturbating. That's all it is. I'm joking, obviously. Yeah, but no, because the thing is, some of them where it comes off just like. The nostalgia market, and it's building it up and build it up. For me, it's just giving it further to fall. I mean, it's gonna like if it is slightly disappointing because you're going in expecting an 8, and even if it's a 7, it's gonna be like right. Well, I'm slightly disappointed. Whereas if you go in thinking like, well, it's gonna be a new game, it's gonna be kind of shit, expecting a 3 or 4, and it's a 7. Do you know what I mean? Then I'm trying to manage my expectations with it because obviously sidetracked a little bit, but Final Fantasy 7, 8, and 9, and to an extent 10 was like magical. Do you know what I mean? You got really like. Awesome nostalgia with it. So I think if they do fuck it up, they've got the weight. I mean, 7's probably the most popular one with people in it, and like gone down as one of the absolute PS1 classics. And I think it's going to disappoint a lot of people. So
yeah, I do as well. But again, just manage your expectations, and you can't be massively disappointed with it at least. Yeah. On Pokemon Go, I haven't played it in ages, so I don't know like what new features and stuff. They've added, so I didn't want to do any kind of like critique or anything like that because it's probably kind of outdated now. I think they've added quite a bit of stuff since I've stopped playing. When it first came out, I played it for about 4 weeks, got to level 23, got like out of the 151 or 150 Pokemon on it, different ones, I got 101 or something like that. So played it quite a lot, and it was fun while I got playing it, but then got kind of tired of it.
Mm-hmm. How many could you get though? Because out of the 151, some of them were like region specific, weren't they?
Yeah, so I think there was maybe the 3 legendary birds, Mew, Mewtwo, so that's 5, and then I think there was 4 region specific ones maybe, which you can only get 1 of. So there's probably like a
142 or something.
Yeah, something like that. Maybe 143 something.
Cool.
But yeah, man, I really liked the discovery element of it. Like having to travel to a real world location to potentially get a reward in a game. Like there was definitely a novelty that kind of grabbed me. And I was walking all over, and it was timed really well with the weather being awesome. And I guess obviously they intentionally released it in the summer.
Yeah, I was going to say that they fucking perfectly timed that in June or something, wasn't it? It was
Yeah,
like, right, well, you know what you're doing.
definitely. But even then, I guess there's like an element of luck because once they've probably got a release date planned in a bit of advance, I doubt you can really kind of turn that round when it's coming out. So, yeah, I think the weather, at least in the UK, was incredible for a couple of weeks around that time. So I got out and about, like live in Sheffield, and there's parks everywhere and loads of random sort of places, and each of those were quite prominent areas of the game where there'd be like shitloads of people gathering all over. You know, you'd walk everywhere and see just huge crowds of people like just playing this game, and it was so weird. Like it's become normal now as people have got normalized to it, like you do with anything as it's passed. But yeah, at the time it was like the topic of conversation whenever you'd see like groups of people, like you'd walk past somebody and have a quick cheeky look at the phone, see if they're playing Pokemon. You'd assume that there was, and like, it got to the point where anytime anyone was looking down at their phone, you would just assume they're playing Pokemon. I think there was a bit of a misconception about the sort of audience that it had. Like there was a lot of people thinking that it was just like young kids and things like that. But I think one of the biggest markets for it were kind of sort of between early 20s and sort of mid 30s, which were the people that were kind of playing all the video games and the cards and all that sort of stuff when it first came out in the 90s. And I think because of that nostalgia, that was they were the people that kind of were getting massively into it, as well as the kids obviously as well. But yeah, it certainly wasn't just sort of school kids that were all over playing it. Like I saw people sort of in their late 20s, early 30s, and got into some pretty cool conversations. Yeah, just normal people. Like it was a weird icebreaker that you wouldn't normally speak to strangers, but now you know for sure that you have kind of at least one thing in common with somebody, and therefore you probably have a few others as well. Like you're of the same generation, you're interested in this kind of stuff. Yeah, so it's kind of weird to get talking to people like that just when you bumped into them, or like people who come up to you and give you advice on where there's something in the game was, but you'd have to travel to like a real world location. So it was a really strange scenario where someone would say like, "Oh, have you been up to this park because this is where this type of Pokemon is?" And yeah, you'd never really have that like before. It's really weird.
So was that sort of a shallow interaction though, or was it just like, is it just an icebreaker? Like, did you still speak to? Did you make any friends or anything, or is it just like
No,
just speaking about the game?
Not any friends really, but like, yeah. Well, there's one time where stood in a certain location for like 30 minutes, 40 minutes. So I was chatting to a whole group of people. Ended up chatting to them about like music and some other things. Ended up going for a few pints with them at the pub and stuff, and we played a bit there, and then like had a big wander around, and yeah, that was kind of cool. There was a few little situations like that where you just maybe like sort of almost like you would at a festival or something like that, where you could, or like if you were traveling or anything like that, where you could quite comfortably just hang around with someone for 3 or 4 hours. It doesn't have to lead on to anything more than that, but you can kind of enjoy someone's company for a few hours, chat to them about all sorts of stuff, and then say, see you, and just go your separate ways. There was a lot of those kind of interactions. Right. I wouldn't necessarily say that they were all shallow, but yeah, they're just kind of unique experiences, really.
Yeah, no, I didn't. Obviously, not shallow in like a negative way or anything like that. But yeah, no, it's like an icebreaker, isn't it? Where sometimes you don't have anything to say, do you? And then festival's a good example of that, because it's like, well, I'm all at this festival, I can presume a certain amount of things about you. Even if it's just that we like the same music or something, you've got that thing in common straight away, and then I mean, it's like you're off to a good start straight away, aren't you? Like again, the festivals is perfect because you know that person's probably into, whatever is music and whatever you're doing at the festival. There's 3 or 4 different things you can probably like reliably guess about them.
Yeah. Yeah, and just like the amount, it's the kind of weird aspect of sort of like probably like thousands or even millions of people who would normally just sit inside and play the video games. Like, are probably now, like, there were loads of stories on the news about, obviously there's all the crazy ones about people fucking getting like robbed and finding dead bodies and weird stuff like that, which is probably when you have millions and millions and millions of people just traveling around and walking around into weird places are inevitably going to come up. But you also had like a lot of stories of kids saying to their parents like about their legs hurting and they didn't know why. And like, it's like, because it's the first time you've walked more than like a few hundred meters in the last 5 years, and you're actually finally doing exercise and your muscles are hurting and you didn't even realize that that was the cause and effect. It's kind of shocking.
Yeah, that's awesome, isn't it? I saw a few like really funny memes about that, about these like geeky kids that were first, there was like, you know, them bit strip things where it's like a little comic book, and it was like by the end this kid was some hench fucking thing and there's like loads of girls on his arm, and he eventually stops playing the game and stuff like that. But you think like Nintendo, I know it's Niantic and not, is it Niantic, however you pronounce it?
Yeah.
How was that one? Niantic?
Niantic, yeah.
So it was them as opposed to Nintendo, but like with the Wii before, and a bit like Dance Dance Revolution and stuff like that, some of them arcade machines, like the sort of the loyal fan base of those people that play those games very often lost a lot of weight, and they Dance Dance Revolution in particular, because it's obviously like super intense and against the clock and like really fast, and it was people doing it like as quick as possible and shit. But a lot of those people lost a lot of weight and got in shape. So I think the sort of knock-on effects of some of those games, especially Nintendo Wii, which is obviously still really popular today, was just that a lot of people sort of, it really forced them into not only social interaction, which is really healthy, but like physically fit. You know what I mean? And that's really interesting because it was like they must have known that had happened, and obviously people you know, getting really deep into the game and just naturally sort of traveling around. But they've done like a few things that I've come up with lately where they're saying like in VR, if people had an immersive VR experience, it'd be the neurological. You'd have like a room or something where you'd have the headset on, or the HTC Vive, or like the Oculus Rift or something, and then you'd be in a room where, you know, you can interact with stuff and walk around and that. Like those people, the modern gamers, or I bet first it'll be used for pornography and then it'll be military training and shit like that. Like it will be an amazing way to keep in shape, or to get in shape, or to lose a load of weight, or, you know, to do whatever, to get really good at these like translatable skills, like in the military and shit, learning how to aim a rifle and shit like that, you know, trajectories and stuff. I think some of them, there'll be some amazing applications for things like that. And time and time again, there's been those sort of things come up that really are like crossing over. This is and the newest expression of it, but like I said, there's been a few other ones like the Wii and stuff that have been really crossing the boundaries in between gaming and real world, or like augmented reality as opposed to just full on VR and stuff, where I think the stereotype of fat, smelly gamers, you know what I mean, is really gonna, it looks like, at least if this sort of trend continues, the gamer of I don't know, 2026 is probably going to be some you know, cardio monster with who's going to be able to like physically roll around and duck around and aim a gun on like Modern Warfare 12. You know what I mean?
Yeah. I heard someone else talking about that as well, like with VR and how, especially in the pro gaming community, maybe not necessarily from a casual sense, it might just have a small but possibly also big to that individual, like a ramification of losing some weight, which I guess could be a big catalyst for other changes in their life. But with the VR in the pro game community, if you get like things like first-person shooters or sports games or anything like that, like you could have to be like a pretty elite athlete to get to the very best of the top of those, if the mechanics are as creative, you know, as we can imagine.
Do you think like if the ultimate goal of VR is to get indistinguishable from reality, like real reality, like whatever you call this around you right now, why would it would make sense that you would go into alternate realities that didn't exist in this reality? Because like if you could boss fucking NBA basketball 2026, say, and it comes out, and you've got a fucking wicked drop shot, and you can like pop the ball in VR, like, why would you not do that in real life? Like if that's the same, it seems to be sort of an interesting sort of dynamic between these games becoming really realistic and then that translating into real world. And the end goal of that VR is to like be so similar to real life you can't tell. It's like, why would you not just do it in real life then? You know what I mean? Like why? Like I'm sure there's loads of exceptions, but why would you do a virtual tour of India if you're not disabled or anything? You've got the money to go and visit it yourself. Like why would you do that? It's like, I used to teach guitar, for example. I used to teach classical guitar. And it's like if I was a really good teacher, people didn't need as many lessons. You know what I mean? So it was kind of like it was kind of weird that if I was really good at my job, I wouldn't earn as much money. And so it's like a backwards sort of thing with it. Like whereas the ultimate goal, I've said it too many times already, but like, that VR thing seems to be that it's indistinguishable. And if it was indistinguishable, it would almost render itself pointless. Do you know what I mean?
All right, yeah. I guess I've not thought about that before. Maybe maybe it can get just shy of indistinguishable, or maybe slightly better than reality in a sense where, say, for example, with the NBA analogy or example, even maybe you don't get injured and you don't have to find, a group of. Although I guess if you were training and getting fit, you just have the equal chance of getting injured. So that wouldn't really apply. But maybe just things like finding people to play with, if you're from a small town somewhere or something like that, maybe all that sort of stuff would be a lot easier. And there's the aspect of maybe people not wanting to try something because they're shit at it. Like because they're maybe embarrassed or they don't want to fail or they're kind of not popular in school or it's, they're not accepted to be able to try that sport out because people are already better than them. Maybe if you can do it in your own bedroom or your own living room for a few months to build up those base skills without anybody even knowing that you're playing it. Mm-hmm. Maybe there's those kind of advantages to something like VR that you kind of, it cuts out that fear of failing in real life. If you're only playing a video game, you still get all the advantages of feeling awesome when you're good at it without the disadvantages of sort of feeling shit when you're failing at it, or at least, the either ends are not as extreme. It's kind of all more condensed into, I'm having fun either way, as opposed to I'm feeling shit if I'm injured or I'm failing in real life and I'm feeling incredible on top of the world if I'm bossing it. Maybe like those two ends of the spectrum are kind of narrowed into, it's just a nice little constant dopamine drip that I'm getting just from experiencing this thing.
Yeah, no, yeah, I'm sure there'd be a load of different benefits, maybe like traveling and stuff. You could play people, but like something like esports in particular has really taken off for that sort of thing. And on the subject of VR as well, I know it was on a Joe Rogan podcast. It was like, is it C9 nothing or something? Do you remember that one?
Yeah, that was a good one.
Yeah, something like that. And he was a Counter-Strike player. He was saying that the VR headsets, if they can't bring them online because if you move your head around really quick, it's really damaging for your brain. To shake your head around really fast, like on Counter-Strike, obviously you're moving around really fast. People play it with the mouse, don't they? So it's like instant and really quick, and that's obviously really damaging. So there's a few things like that. Like it'd have to be some sort of a body glove or like is it the Xbox One that's got that? Like there's a VR sensor, and it can sense what's in the room, and it sort of like scans you in 3D terms and shit like that. Do you know what I'm talking about?
Yeah.
Something like that, where as opposed to something you physically wear on your head, or like the Oculus is like a physical headset, or that one that I've got for the phone, just like a little VR. I mean, you've used it at the time. It's not amazing, obviously. It's that little VR headset. Like, I think that's the first stages of it, sort of thing. But I think eventually it's going to be like the fucking holodeck from Star Trek. Like it's just a computer simulation, and you just walk into this room, and it's like everything's tangible and shit like that. Like, I'm sure science fiction is like. It's alarmingly accurate, a predictor of like future shit. Do you know what I mean? I'm sure a lot of it's going to end up turning out to like some of that Star Trek shit is just like a pretty good look forward at some of the possibilities of technology, even within the next sort of decade. And mate, that's crazy. I mean, I'm excited. But yeah, just to bring it back, like Pokemon Go, the augmented reality. I think that is a really interesting idea because I'd not thought about that before until you were basically telling me, a few weeks ago about Pokemon Go and it being like the augmented thing, integrating both worlds, obviously, like if you want the real world and then the game world, and broaching those as opposed to being in my head, it pretty much was like Star Trek holodeck where it was a completely created world. It's interesting that it's going to sort of mingle in with real life, or there's them shooting games you can get where you put the headset on and then like you can shoot aliens that look like they're in your environment, that sort of thing.
Yeah, well, that's what I was going to ask you about with regards to like you're talking about Star Trek and the holodeck and what's going to be happening in the next 10 years and stuff. Because the thing that really alarmed me the most about this Pokemon Go phenomenon is just the speed of how quick it was just everywhere. Like it was, I think within a few days of coming out, it had more traffic than Twitter and Facebook combined, or something like that, in terms of like data exchanged over 4G or whatever, like worldwide. And how many years they had taken to build like a customer base, or like people using it, and then this was just essentially overnight, just boom, here we are, look at this. And obviously it's kind of a rare exception, but that's not the end. Like this could easily just be the first, the first one of these type of things. Like who knows what the next one's going to be, and then the next one, and then the next one. Like I remember just a few days after it came out, like a lot of places around the city centre had like signs up everywhere outside saying like Pokestop here, come in and have some food and play Pokemon and like do this and that. And there's like everyone trying to cash in on this kind of crazy phenomenon. And you're like, nobody could have predicted that, like just out of nowhere. So because we couldn't have predicted it, what sort of possible future or next sort of wave of technology could there be? What we're not going to be able to predict.
I thought that.
It's crazy for the imagination.
Yeah, like a lot of opportunism, aren't there?
Yeah, and like the weird little industries that you couldn't have predicted would have made a lot of money overnight, like those power banks and charge cables, because obviously it was an app that absolutely smashed your smartphone's battery in like an hour or two. Yeah, one of those.
Yeah,
like I hardly knew anyone with one of those before that game came out, and then after sort of a week or so of it being out, you're walking around and almost everyone walking around in town had one of those out and plugged in. It was so surreal. Imagine like those industries must have been laughing because they couldn't have predicted overnight that their sales, they'd have had a target for their month or their year or whatever, and then they probably sold their yearly fucking targets in that week when it came out or something. Weird shit that just can change overnight now. And I think with the introduction of technology and things going viral, and therefore it introduces like hype and people's FOMO, like fear of missing out, like just how fast fucking things can just spiral now. It's nuts.
Yeah, I know, man. I think a lot of that though, for the I don't like to call them the status quo or whatever, but the sort of people in charge, like business people and stuff. The end result for them is basically instability, isn't it? Or some of those things are really like unpredictable. Whereas I think what they'd want, and again, it's not them and us. It's not they. Like I'm a businessman. You know what I mean? I own a business. It's not an exclusive sort of thing, and it's not like some sort of elitist comment or anything like that. But some of those things, and like you're right. There is absolutely no way to predict that was going to take off. That it was going to take off so well, and that I'm sure that when that game came out, there were people that were selling block charges that were like, "All right, here we are." I mean, I bet they could predict it to an extent. But yeah, things going viral like that, and things becoming super popular, like. You don't know what it's going to be. Do you know what I mean? Like it's the same YouTube videos is in particular, like with our channel, and I've got my own YouTube channel and stuff like that. Like building some of them, like some of the videos, like I can't predict it. You know what I mean? I can't predict which ones are going to get 1,000 views or which ones are going to get 12. Do you know what I mean? Like I've got one video that's gone over 1,000 views and I'm chuffed to myself. Do you know what I mean? But there's been a few that have been like that though. I just can't predict it. There's no way to know. And I think the end result, especially business wise, for a lot of people, especially like if you want to call them like a third party, third-party products for that game, if you want, or like a second an aftermarket product for that game, in terms of people like needing to charge their phones up and shit. Some of that stuff, like it probably did make the market pretty weird, and there was like demands and like market pressures that they couldn't have predicted and couldn't have come in and stuff. Like on paper for a business, that's really bad, isn't it?
Well, because it's just unstable, unpredictable.
I'm positive that when Niantic announced they were going to release Pokemon Go in June, there were definitely people like Maplins and Argos and stuff like that who thought, right, shit, we best, I bet there were some savvy people somewhere that definitely thought we've got to buy block chargers or whatever else it was, the people are going to definitely use for that sort of thing. And I'm sure some people did definitely predict it. But in terms of like that massive demand, like it's just pretty weird, isn't it? It's a weird little thing because I didn't think about it personally. It doesn't mean they didn't. Like I didn't consider anything like that. Until pretty much until you told me, sort of thing. So yeah, like just on paper, just in terms of someone's bottom line, if someone got like an eBay shop or something like that, like there was a huge spike in, and again, a block charge is an example I can think of, like just a massive spike in that wouldn't have been wouldn't have been known, and like it just makes you think what's next, or like what else there could be, or what else is just going to take off. Like there's going to be some cultural thing, a game, a television show, viral trends on YouTube and Twitch and games, or whatever it happens to be. And actually, the end result for people that own businesses or again eBay shops and stuff is going to be that some of their products that are related to that social trend are just going to go mad. It's a weird place we live in, mate. I think it's like a bit of a sign of the times that viral trend. There's like a few people get their head around something, and then it snowballs. I mean, and then all of a sudden there's an exponential leap in people that are jumping on stuff and get involved and go and play it and shit like that. But bringing it back to Pokemon, what I was going to say is like I don't live anywhere near the city, obviously, or 20 miles away. And my experience of that game would have been completely different to yours. And I think that I didn't see anybody in the streets. I didn't see anyone anywhere. I saw 2 or 3 kids playing it, and they were like young kids, like teenagers. Well, I obviously don't know how old, but I would have had a completely different experience. And I would, in my area where I am now, in my little town, I would have never met anybody. Do you know what I mean? Or like, I presume I wouldn't have done. I don't know. Obviously, I didn't go swelling out sort of thing. But I would have had a completely different experience of that game, and I would have had different opinions to you because you live in the city with, a million other people sort of thing.
Yeah, for sure. That was one of my biggest criticisms of the game. I think it was based on cellular traffic or something. So they had like essentially a map over, say, like imagine Google Maps, and then taking all that information away and just putting like a digital sort of skin over it, where there's now, instead of tells you where roads and buildings are, it's just like where is all the busiest sort of cellular data and traffic and the most people live and the most sort of smartphone usage. Where is that? The highest concentrations of that information is where we're going to stick all the Pokemon, particularly the more uncommon and rarer Pokemon. I think the way that they figure out Pokestops, which is where you get your Pokeballs and you can like do other things, and there's like gyms and stuff where you can like take over and battle and things like that. They were like things like churches, pieces of architecture, graffiti walls, sort of historical buildings like parks, places of note, basically. And obviously the highest concentration of anything like that is in cities. So when you combine those two things with like historical places of note or things that people want to go see, and you combine that with sort of high cellular data, basically all the stuff that's going on is in the city. When I first sort of started imagining what sort of potential that the game has, I was thinking like, imagine sort of going on like a massive bike ride or going on a huge hike up like down this nature trail into this lake or to the base of this mountain, and then being able to find this like really fucking rare Pokemon that no one else has found or no one else has seen, and then you're coming back with it and telling your mates about a story and a really cool day you've had. I thought that would have been so much more of a rewarding experience, maybe harder to implement from a game point of view, and obviously it wouldn't have perhaps got as many people playing the game, which is kind of counterintuitive to what they want. But in terms of like making a better game, I thought like they could have completely reversed it. So in the busiest, most dense areas of population in cities, you have the fewest, most common Pokemon. And then in the wilderness, in the crazy areas is where you have all like the legendary or rare Pokemon or something like that. I personally would have found that a lot more rewarding experience, because then you would have had to go out of your comfort zone, go out into like the wilderness, actually get out into the world and sort of play the game that way. That was the sort of thing that I thought would have been cool.
Yeah. Do you think less people would have done it though? Do you think people because it was a bit more of a hassle, it would have been a massive, like you might have done it, I might have done it sort of thing, but like, do you reckon somebody, because it was 3 or 4 miles away, might have been massively off put if they lived in the city sort of thing?
Yeah, definitely.
So like, I presume they've had conversations about that. So I'm, not to condescend your point or whatever, but I think they probably did think about all that. I think putting them in the cities was like the logical option, and I agree that it was a logical option. It's not. If I was balls deep into it and I was really excited about playing it or something like that, I could very easily fall into a thought pattern or a mindset where it was like, well, I'm being penalized because I don't live in the city or whatever. And again, that's just bullshit. That's not how it is. But I guess that was a bit of a criticism for it, that people felt in other places in the world where it was more difficult to get to places. You imagine somewhere like Australia or America or somewhere, or Africa, where it's massive. Do you know what I mean? In America in particular, because it was so big that you would have to drive places, you have to go and do something. It was more of an effort, or it would be much, much more of an effort for those people to to go a few miles away. And you know, I think it'd be easy to fall into this like almost like a victim mindset sort of thing, where it was like, well, I'm being punished, I'm being penalised for not, you know, not living in this expensive area or not paying the rent to live in this place, and then therefore one of the knock-on effects for that is almost like it's you know, you could very easily see it from the lens of it being like
victim mentality.
Yeah, but also about money. Do you know what I mean? Like in the city, it costs more to live, and therefore there's an interest. You know, almost as sort of not that it was put there because and again, you've got to be real careful with the argument because it suggests a little bit that it was like deliberate or there was some sort of like, you know, nefarious intent with this. I mean, it obviously wasn't that way. But really quickly, I think you could you could paint that picture that it was like, well, it was for rich white people who definitely live in the urban centres. Do you know what I mean? As opposed to maybe poorer people that couldn't afford to live there or didn't have the jobs or, you know, didn't earn that much money to live in the centres and things.
Yeah, I mean, you could sort of go down that rabbit hole, but
I don't think that, by the way. So.
Yeah, I think it's purely to do with the way that they could purely map the game, because obviously they're putting a game out in the real world where you've got to go to real world places across the world. Like, you know, for them to be able to do that, like they need some simple, what's the word? Like an algorithm, like an automatic mechanic that's just going to figure it all out for them, rather than to like click on this location, here's where this spawns, click on this location. Imagine how many people that would take and how many years that would take to like program.
Yeah.
So yeah, I think it was purely down to like traffic, cellular data, where people live. This is where it's going to be. I think that was the way that it was done. But yeah, I mean, one of my other biggest criticisms of it was like the actual depth of the game itself. Obviously, the battling was one of the best aspects, as well as the collecting. The battling was one of the best aspects of the original games. And now all you have to do is like basically have better stats or have a higher number than the other thing that you're battling. And if you tap the screen enough, then you'll probably kill it. There's no real depth to that system. Whereas I think as soon as you remove the turn-based element of something, you completely take a whole layer of strategy away from any game, which is actually one of the biggest criticisms I have with the new Final Fantasy VII game. Is I get it, you know, we're in 2016 now, it's got to be modernized. Turn-based systems are archaic, but I was like, yeah, maybe from one point of view, but I think also what's archaic, or not necessarily archaic, but just shit, is when you remove like fucking layers and layers of strategy and depth, which is what the earlier Final Fantasy games had in abundance, and that's specifically because they had a turn-based battle system.
Exactly.
Like chess, for example, like one of the deepest games that there is, and it's turn-based. Like rather than just having to like mash a button as fast as you can, and just go through the motions, or use rather than actual skills or brain power or experience with something. It's like, I have spent more time playing this, therefore my numbers are bigger and better than yours. Therefore, this, you know, I've unlocked this sword and this armor and this Pokemon, so it's more powerful just because I've pressed A 1,000 times more than you. Like, rather than actually developing skills and knowledge and strategy, which I think turn-based systems allow you to have.
Yeah, I think there's I agree. I think there's elements of that in the old Final Fantasies though. You know, if you could grind. Like in Final Fantasy IX, if you get to that plateau in Gizmaluke's grotto and you could like fight them grand dragons and shit, it's like you just literally you go in, you have that coral. I know you've not played Final Fantasy IX, so this is probably just fucking gibberish to you. But like, you equip this coral ring, and then one of the characters has got this thing called level 5 death, which kills a grand dragon instantly, and you get all this XP. So right at the start of the game on disc 1, you could quite easily boost your characters up to like level 25, and then you smash the other 2 discs. You know what I mean? I've been watching a Let's Play from this guy called Mage Masher 22, and he's playing this. In fact, actually, just to completely sidetrack on Final Fantasy, there's HD remasters of I think 7 and 9. I'm not sure about 8. There might be a HD one. The remasters on Steam. So the Steam version.
Final Fantasy 7. I played that one. It's awesome.
You've played it?
Yeah.
Oh, mate, that's awesome. I was going to buy Final Fantasy 9 because I work at home mostly. This was like. It's what I do for a living up here. I've got my little miniatures and shit. If you like this, I found these balls of light outside, so I captured them in my cabinet.
It looks like an elixir or something.
Yeah, little fairies. I found them outside. Now they're in my cabinet. You little bitch. You ain't going nowhere. Yeah. So I work at home,
Do
and
you
if
like my pineapple?
nice, that's not real though, is it?
No, not really. Not even a little
What
bit.
game are you trying to pull there, Mike?
What game are you trying to pull with your fairy elixir cabinet?
It is real, yeah. No, no. But if I downloaded this game called Breath of Fire 4, and it was one of my fucking favorite ones from when I was a kid. And all I was doing was, I felt like an addict or something, where like that jumped to right at the very top of my priorities. You know what I mean, straight away, it was like that was more appealing, more exciting than my actual work. You know what I mean? Like the stuff that, because you have to be self motivated, like, yeah, really self motivated to keep yourself going through grinding through it and shit. Because it is bullshit. And sometimes because you're at home, there's the internet and you can mess about. So I almost downloaded Final Fantasy 9, the Steam version, because it's like 15 quid and it's HD remaster and it looks fucking beautiful. And it's awesome. It's exactly the same game, but it's got a HD menu screen and all the item animations are completely different. And it's just beautiful and really smooth. And all the characters are all 3D, HD and remastered in the game. And it's exactly the same apart from that. And it was so tempting to just
drink
fuck
that
70 hours away. Do you know what I mean?
drink
Just
that nostalgia.
yeah, just absolutely waste 70 hours of my life playing through and all that sort of shit. Playing that Chocobo hot and cold game until my fucking thumb bled. Do you know what I mean? So
What?
On Final Fantasy 9 is the best side quest in any Final Fantasy. And if you disagree, fuck you.
Fuck
It's
you.
Chocobo hot and cold, and it is the best fucking thing.
Motorbike racing on Final Fantasy 7, like slashing people off.
Yeah, that's it. There's a few good ones, man. Final Fantasy 9, Chocobo hot and cold, digging up them chocographs in them lagoons and shit. Jesus Christ, it's just, it's yeah.
What
It's
you were
crack
saying?
cocaine for someone like me.
What you were saying about the battle systems kind of strategy and depth on those turn-based ones, but there is obviously the element of grind.
That's it. Yeah,
I agree. But what I was going to say, as soon as you're playing against a computer, that's the case. But what I mean is like a player versus player experience, and you're having that extra level of strategy and depth, like you would on the original Pokemon games, because there's a cap in what level you can get to, and so nobody, once you get to that cap, no one's going to get, there's not going to be a bigger advantage to that person by spending more time on it after that, apart from to develop their skills, strategy, and experience like they would at something like chess. And so I think what they should have done, I don't know if they have done, I don't think they have yet, but with Pokemon Go, they should have allowed you to battle your friends, and it should have been like some sort of turn-based option. That, at least for me and probably a lot of people who were originally attracted to the game, would have added so much more depth and like replayability value and entertainment to the game itself.
You couldn't battle against each other?
No, so if I was sat in a room with you and we both
No.
had Pokemon and stuff, no, we couldn't battle.
That's fucking bullshit, man.
Yeah, exactly.
I thought you could. I thought it was the point. I thought that's why you had the Pokemon team.
No.
But it's not. So what was the point in having the Pokemon?
So you can no, it's you leave your Pokemon on gyms and shit. Like so that it's like a rep based thing or something. So in your area in the real world or something like that. So if you're team yellow or team blue or team red,
yeah, different color
you've
teams.
got to battle that. Say if I was team blue, wait, no, that's confusing. I'm team red. I'm wearing a red t-shirt. You're team blue. You've like left a really powerful Pokemon on the gym next to your house. And I see, right, I don't want that to be team blue. I want it to be team red because tribalism. And that's pretty much it, rep. And so yeah, I've got to get a better Pokemon so then I can actually defeat yours and leave the red. So it's just basically like you're playing to fight for your color team that you've chosen, which is so fucking shallow and surface level. Like I say, the entire element of battling your friends or whoever, people you just met, like with your Pokemon squad that you've assembled, that feature isn't even there in the game. It's fucking bullshit. There's no trading either. And I mean, the trading one, I could see why you maybe want to introduce that at first, because all it would take is one person to get them all and then start selling all the shit that he's got for real world money onto fucking kids and whoever else over the internet or whatever. There'd be a whole market that would be created there for like selling things and getting, just so people could fucking get the free shit, or not the free stuff, like get all the Pokemon, they just buy it in real world money, and that kind of defeat the object of the game. But then again, I guess if they want to make stupid decisions, then it should be their choice to do that. But yeah, the battling one was the one that really pissed me off, and inevitably made me realise that there was no depth to that game, which is why I stopped playing it. Like the majority of people, going back onto the idea of where people are playing it, like I bet half of the people that have played a lot of that game aren't wandering around experiencing new places. Like I found a lot of new real world locations in Sheffield, like different parks, different random cool graffiti walls or murals, because I was like looking at the map and then ended up finding them in real life. So now I kind of have a better knowledge of Sheffield and the area just through playing the game, which is kind of weird but really cool as well. I think most people's experience with playing the game is sat at their desk at work instead of working, or like on their lunch break, just sat at their desk. And because they have, they're in the city and they have a Pokestop or a gym or something like that next to it, sticking a lure down, which like you put it on a Pokestop or whatever, and it attracts Pokemon, so you don't even have to walk anywhere, and just collecting, basically just grinding, like playing any old shitty free-to-play game, tapping the screen until the numbers go up and they feel better because they've got more of something. I think that's a lot of people's experience of the game, rather than actually going out and discovering and adventuring. Like I said, I wanted the strategy and the challenge from the battling. As a phenomenon, it's really cool and really crazy, but as an actual game, it's pretty shit.
Dude, yeah, I didn't know about the battling thing, man. That's really annoying, isn't it? What the fuck? That'd be surely like, other than there's obviously the collecting element of it and the gyms you can battle sort of thing. But I thought that'd have been a big thing, man. I thought that your Pokemon had like trying to fuck the other Pokemon. I'm sure. I thought that was the point. I thought that'd be one of the big laws of it, that you'd spend the time training so that you could just take on random battles and shit.
Yeah, well, not the case.
Bloody hell, mate! It was interesting though. It was interesting to see how big it was. Hasn't it? In the meantime, though, like in the last couple of weeks, and it lost. I'm sure I listened to it on a podcast somewhere that in the last couple of weeks or the last month, it's lost something like 15 million players.
Yeah, I won't be surprised. I don't know what that is as a percentage, though. I bet it's a relatively small percentage of the overall.
Yeah, that's crazy, isn't it? 15 million is not a lot.
Even if something as big as Call of Duty loses 15 million online players, that's a pretty big hit to their player base, especially on one console. That's probably most or all of their player base, like playing online, at any one time. They're never going to get 15 million online at once, I don't think.
Google that, man, because that's actually quite interesting. How many people play? What's the latest one? Is it Black Ops 3, is it? I'm not sure. Let's have a look.
Yeah, I used to hammer that shit. And we got really good at it, didn't we? But then about 3 or 4 Call of Duties ago, I massively dropped off.
There was that one that me and you stopped up and played late one night, and I got arsey like a child because I couldn't play it very well. And I got really annoyed at it, and I've just, ever since then, just been really...
What mode was it? What type of online game? Or was it zombies or...
Black Ops 2, I think. It
was like did they do like a 2-on-2 function online or something like that? Or was you just playing deathmatch or some shit?
We were just playing team deathmatch, me and you on. I was Xbox 360. It was Black Ops 2. Me and you and my girlfriend stopped up and watched, bought it, on the midnight release from whenever it was in November.
Oh, yeah. I bet that was a while ago now.
Oh, yeah. I mean, I was living in Sheffield at the time, so it's been 3 or 4 years. It's been 3 or 4. Played Ghost quite a bit. There's a few of them now that I couldn't find it online how many players there were. They could tell how many sales and stuff there were, but not necessarily how many like active players there were. But
I think, 15 million views. 15 million players of the grand scheme of things for Pokemon Go, I imagine, is not the be all and end all of everything, especially because the people that have dropped off are probably the people that weren't spending any money, because obviously the way that they would make money in that game for the business is in-app purchases.
Yeah.
There's a really good South Park episode on it's called Freemium Gaming, and they had some really good points about like how it's almost like the alcohol industry, and a few other sort of industries based on addiction, that they don't necessarily need the vast majority of their player base or consumer base to be spending any or an awful lot of money. It's just the addicts, that actually spend 90% of of their profits. They actually gain 90% of their profits from people who are addicted. So it's like the very few who buy the very most are the way that they make their money in those kind of industries.
Yeah, in-app purchases. Yeah, there's a load of games like that that say free to play, and then like you actually got to spend quite a lot of money. Or there's like a level cap where like halfway in it'll give you a load of stuff, and then it'll just drop off, and you got to spend money. Bullshit.
Yeah.
Or there'll be gold and then gems. They get a few of. Do you know what I mean? It's a really kind of it winds me up the model. Do you know what I mean? So in July 2016, there was 9.5 million daily users of Pokemon Go, and then worldwide daily active users got, according to TheVerge.com, it was basically almost up to 45 million worldwide. And then at August 16th, 2016, it dropped off to about 30 million. So they've lost about a third of the users.
Right, okay.
That was about a month ago. So even lower than that now, I presume.
Yeah, that's quite a large portion then.
It went up and then it went right up and then off slowly. Do you know what I mean? So like, jumps right up. But it's interesting because a few of them seem to have done that, man. Where there's like the Wii when it came out was really bloody popular, and then now it's like it's probably the shittest one out of like PS4 and Xbox One and everything. And then a few of them seem to do that where they come in and they're kind of faddy, like they are viral. Do you know what I mean? A big part of that is that that a few months or a year or 6 months later, the popularity like massively declines or massively like people get. What do you think? I don't know. Like, what do you think people get bored of it or something? Or people just they've played it and are done? They want to move on or what?
Well, I think there's a large portion of the player base that, like I said, the FOMO, their boyfriend's playing it, the people at work are playing it. They don't want to feel, it kind of there's an interesting swing on something like that where it's cool to play it. No, it starts off very uncool and people are cautious. And then it gets to the point where you see people's girlfriends and like people in the street everywhere and just any old person playing it. And then it kind of becomes cool to play it. That sort of attitude. And then after a while again, you're still playing it. It becomes uncool again. Like, so it's all in that kind of like fucking stupid zeitgeist sort of mentality of whether something's cool or not. And so I think there's a large portion of the players just go with the trends on what's currently cool in society and just do what everyone else does, sheeple.
There's on the flip side of that though, there's a lot more people now that like to see themselves as sort of spiritually aware. These like big old people that it's kind of cool to hate on stuff like that. It's like counterculture, hipster culture, where it's like because it's popular, it's unpopular to them. Do you know what I mean? Like I've definitely noticed myself never buying or really actively disliking Apple products. Because it's just an aesthetic, do you know what I mean? Or it's like something that just doesn't appeal to me because it's sort of popular, because it's kind of like trendy. On the surface of it, it's the same specifications for twice the money, and it kind of winds me up. That's, me personally, that's what it is. But it can't, like Pokemon in particular is one of those ones. It kind of became cool to hate as well, where a lot of people were like, "Well, I'm not playing it because it's so popular," or whatever it was. It was like a lot of people that sort of stayed away from it because they were exaggerating all these things. But it was like, it's kind of sad or it's kind of pathetic that you're catching Pokemon. There was loads of Facebook and social media stuff I saw about that, about people taking the piss out of their boyfriends and like friends of friends who were like, my boyfriend was literally out at 9 o'clock last night catching Pokemon with his mates, and I lost a lot of respect for him and shit like that. Like all sorts of stories that I've heard of people that were actively judging other people for finding it so entertaining. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, but it's interesting how there's a certain point on how many people are doing something and how popular it is, where that story about that person's boyfriend doing something and losing respect, like if that's something that wasn't worldwide, if it wasn't a phenomenon, if everybody wasn't doing it, then there wouldn't have been that same level of respect loss for that situation. Like if it was just something that no one had ever heard of and they were doing it at 9 p.m. with their mates, like then it all of a sudden becomes okay. But because it's something that's like massive and everyone knows about it, like, you know what I mean? There's a weird kind of, you're not looking at the actual facts or the context or the real objective analysis of the situation. It's all about like people's perceptions of you and what you do and what your boyfriend does and all that sort of stuff. It's really weird, like, and that only comes when something gets big enough or then small enough it becomes okay again or whatever. I don't know.
Yeah, it's that hipster sort of thing, isn't it? Like about music, I only listen to music you've never heard of and shit like that. Where it's like you're hating on it because it's popular, or like because of the way that you see yourself, or because of the way those people sort of. And again, I don't mean to paint it in such a like us and them sort of way, because it's all people at the end of the day. But like painting that picture where it's like, I don't see myself as somebody who goes along with popular culture. I'm a different sort of. I'm a unique individual. I'm somehow different or better, or I'm just maybe not better or worse, but sort of different than these people. And if they like it, then I'm not going to. And then before you know it, I did exactly the same thing. I went into it with like a premeditated ideas before I even saw it, or I never tried it myself, sort of thing. And I really caught myself doing that. I'm like, no, just idiot, stop it. You know what I mean? Like, don't judge it before you tried it, sort of thing. And I think I've definitely noticed people doing that sort of thing, where you go in with a negative view of it because of these ideas that you have in your head. And sort of, you like to. It's probably just that you like to see yourself differently than the rest, or you're not like other people, and most people are dickheads, or whatever people think, or whatever it is. Like I'm guilty of that as well, but. And then because it's so popular with people, you step away from it before you even tried it, or judging people before you even really give it a chance, because of this idea in your head that it's like, well, if most people are idiots, and if most people like it, I'm not an idiot, so therefore I'm not going to like it, or stuff like that.
Yeah,
and it just smacks a bit of I don't know, a little bit of I'm better than you sort of shit, a bit of self-aggrandization, or whatever that word is. I don't know. So I'm trying to think of the word, like just think you're better than people.
It works both ways as well, doesn't it? Like, because there's a lot of people that really hate on stuff like you say, the hipster culture, or just lots of different groups. And like I've been guilty of it myself too, where something's really popular, and so you distance yourself from it before you've even really heard anything or seen it or anything like that, and you'd actually actively mock people that do it just because it's popular. So there's that side of it, but then there's also, it's just as bad to do the other thing where you like it and you get into it and you continue to identify with it just because it's popular. Like a lot of people do that as well, where they just latch on to anything because they want to feel as part of, that they're a part of a group. And I think either of those are equally as bad. Like if you're liking something just because other people either do or don't like it, and therefore that will impact on your image positively or negatively, then you're probably doing something for the wrong reason.
Yeah, definitely. I think some of that's subconscious for people as well. That you're like, and I can't speak for other people. Obviously, I'm getting into some pretty condescending territory sometimes with it. But it's stuff like fashion and that. There is a certain acceptable way to look and to dress and to speak and everything like that. There are a lot of things, fashion in particular, but just certain things that are acceptable to, I suppose, do or ways to act, as well as just like clothes to wear. But I think for some reason, that, like of some people at least, in my incorrect, my anecdotal experience of it, some people don't necessarily realize they do that sort of thing, and you pick up on subtle cues from other people like that you do want to fit in, and you do want to, you do either want to stand out. Like I got a load of tattoos when I was younger and stuff like that, loads and loads of them, and some of them are just stupid, some of them are shit, but like stuff like that, because I sort of knew, or I subconsciously picked up that other people looked and dressed and acted a certain way, and that because of my identity, or the story I was telling myself about myself, sort of thing, that sort of forms its way into your identity, or the way that you see yourself, like subconsciously or otherwise, that was informing like fashion choices. And I think a lot of people as an example, like fashion as an example, I don't think people realize they're doing that sometimes. And there's just a certain way to look, a certain way to act, even though some people's hairstyles or the sort of clothes they wear, it might be within a certain range. There are things that are sort of unacceptable, certain things that are unacceptable, certain practices that are unacceptable to engage in, and some of them are. But that process for me, and again, just in my experience with other people, some of that seems to be, they don't seem to realize that that's what's going on. Or like I used to work in a supermarket years and years ago, and I saw that the black leggings trend in girls, where it started off as obviously it's a yoga thing or like a gym wear, and now you see a lot of girls, with them stupid tight black leggings on all the time,
but nothing else. Like basically just got their ass out. You can see everything.
You can see that every crevice, can't you? You can just see you can just see the shape of your arsehole. Just stop and put it away.
Yeah.
We used to have this running joke with some of the lads that were it's a bit chauvinistic, I guess, but some of the lads that were working at the thing, that like there was there was all exaggeration aside, there was a very noticeable trend between a girl being attractive and then not having her body out. And if a girl was like slightly less attractive, and like there were definitely more and more girls that were like on the lower end of what you would, or a group
What's,
of
what's conventionally attractive or not?
yeah, very immature young men would typically deem, symmetrically attractive or whatever. There was a massive, like a definite correlation between some girl having like, not being very pretty and then just getting her arsehole out constantly, just walking around with it out. And like that was a definite thing. And I saw that come in as well. And it was like, right, well, you don't think you even realize you're doing it. That just becomes normal now. And then you sort of subconsciously pick up on this, like maybe even a misconception of what normality is. And then you conform to it without sort of realizing, based on this idea of yourself that, well, I'm a normal person. I just want to fit in. I don't want to stand out from people in a negative way. I want to make sure that, you know what I mean? And all that sort of stuff. And I don't really want to do that. I'll be that way. But again, I'm aware of it. And I think not that many people sort of ever think about that sort of shit, or maybe it is subconscious, man. I don't know. What do you think? Do you think it's like something you just pick up on without realizing? Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, I think for the majority of people, it probably is. And then maybe you catch yourself doing it, that you've got into something because other people did, or you hate something, like you said, because other people like it. But I think at that point, when you catch yourself, it's probably time to rethink it, analyze it once you've noticed. Like we were saying before, it's not too much of a problem. There's probably no real blame or shame attached to just doing something until you realize that you're doing it. And then at that point, if you continue to behave in such a way where, it's kind of a wrong decision or a bad decision or whatever, once you realize, then that's probably a bit shitty of you to do. But, if you hadn't realized and it's subconscious, then it's hard to really point a finger and blame somebody until then. Speaking of the arsehole out though, just to bring it back around to that, yeah. You said you could see it coming. Do you think it could see you coming?
Like, what, the arsehole, the hole?
Yeah. Like, it's just, I don't know. It's like this weird sort of evil gravity.
Well, I don't know, dude. I think some people you can predict them sort of trends. You know what I mean, or you can see what's what. Or like, a lot of times there's influential people in societies and cultures, and in the West it'll be like celebrities, film stars, musicians, stuff like that, who can debut a fashion or a social trend, or can start off them stupid hashtag politic things where it's like cancel Colbert and shit like that. You know what I mean? Where like they can put a hashtag up on social media and then that'll inform people's life decisions and their sort of their worldviews on things. So I suppose you can predict a lot of those things. You can see a lot of them coming through influential figures in society. But I think that the vast majority of people that would say do shit that Justin Bieber does, or wear clothes that look like to look like Rihanna or something like that, I think they're a greatly over-exaggerated, like completely sort of misrepresented group of people that don't represent me or anything that I do. And I think that in different cultures, music's a good example of it, really. That in like a metal culture or somebody who's into like alternative music, there is almost a stereotype, sort of certain different acceptable ways to be and behave and things to do and stuff like that. And it seems to come down to like social circles and your personal interests and stuff. Music seems to be like quite a polarizing one for people. Yeah, and I suppose you can see stuff coming through influential figures in whatever that culture happens to be, not just necessarily like music and stuff, but I think you probably can predict certain stuff to an extent. Yeah,
it's like hairstyles and stuff like that in sports as well. Like as soon as you remember like the David Beckham, remember that crazy phenomenon trend in probably late 90s, mid to late 90s in schools and stuff, where everyone sort of had, because that fucking silly boy, a stupid
batty boy,
had a stupid tit hairstyle. As Ali G would say, batty boy.
Batty boy.
As he had that silly hairstyle, then it just became, because he was good at something, then people wanted to sort of have that same look as him.
It's strange, isn't it? To like emulate what they do, to copy them. And what, like those things are like they're symbols. They're like
Yeah,
it's like drawing an illuminate like a third eye on a triangle and suspending it above an open palmed hand and shit like that, because that's like an occult symbol. And by having those signs and symbols in your life, it would invoke
greatness.
whatever it is,
Well, it's so
spirits into
meaningless
your
though.
life.
Like it's not fucking. It doesn't mean anything. Like what you're doing is you're aligning your identity and what you stand for with that person who's really fucking good, probably at what they do, whether it be football, you know, whether they're an amazing singer, or an amazing actor or something like that. And you're saying like, basically, I'm similar to that, or I agree with that, or I want to be that, but you're not really taking any actual action towards that, like in terms of taking acting classes, you know, going to football practice or going to singing lessons. What you're doing is you're just really fucking surface level emulating them, and therefore then people will perhaps look at you in a really similar, obviously a diluted but a similar light. Oh, they're also cool, they're also good, they're also fashionable. It's so fucking surface level.
What seems to happen, and again, all my subjective, anecdotal bullshit opinion, what seems to happen is somebody get in sport, music, celebrity, acting, that sort of thing. What seems to happen is people start off as nobodies. They work really fucking hard. They've got disciplined mindset. They go and do shit with they force their body into doing physical things in their life. They work out, they eat right, they look good. They get really disciplined at a sport, or at acting, or at music, or whatever else it happens to be. Those are suppose the big ones that I can think of. The people that, in terms of specifically people that go on to become massive influential figures in society, and you know, someone like Arnold Schwarzenegger or something like that, who started off as obviously an amateur bodybuilder and then got famous, and now he's a politician and all the rest of it. Like, you know, it seems to go in a sort of in a progression. It seems that at the end, people that have, after they've worked hard, after they've earned their millions, after they've gone the best of their field, they get all this respect, all this fame, they become heroes and they become role models and everything else, and then they become eccentric. And a part of becoming eccentric and weird and loved and being surrounded by yes men and getting fucked up on cocaine all the time and having a team of transgender undesirables on speed dial at all point that are going to rush in with the 1 cal spray and start sucking your dick off, or you know, stuff like that. That's a symptom of being an eccentric person, which is the end of a long career. And it all started off with you being an amateur and then becoming disciplined and all the rest of it. And a symptom of, and again, just talk about hairstyles and shit, like David Beckham. That's like the very end point was in becoming amazing and famous, and then having a fashionable hairstyle. And then what people do, as opposed to emulating the very first thing that he did, which was like get disciplined and get hard working and do all the hard shit, people copy the last thing first, which is get a stupid hairstyle. It's almost in the hopes to like follow in his footsteps, like especially just lately.
You want to fast track it straight to the end goal.
Yeah, that pretend like they're famous already. They pretend they're eccentric and weird and pretend they're already famous and want all the attention and everything without doing any of the hard work, without doing any of the discipline, without putting in the daily grind or following a career path for years and years and years and being shit at it and failing and trying again and falling down and picking it, all the rest of it. They don't want to do any of that. What they want is, after my 40-year career and I'm a legend in whatever it is, and I've got a crazy hairstyle and I've got my transsexual undesirables on speed dial, they want to jump right to that straight away, and live that lifestyle now without the discipline, without the hard work, without the mindset, without any of the grind, the daily grind, getting up at 6 in the morning and working 12 hours a day, shit like that. All that bullshit is gone. And what you end up is with just a subgroup of fucking idiots that have got a spiky mohawk and a bit of stubble and a Jesus on a cross tattoo from fucking arsehole to neck, because that's what David Beckham did.
I think you're on something there.
It's bullshit.
I think that's what it is. That's what it is. It's that, emulating the final form as opposed to like the steps up until greatness. It's just trying to fast track themselves into the same social group and category as having had already achieved greatness without the hard work that leads them there. I think that's it.
I think you either don't think about it, or you know and don't care, or maybe you deny it to yourself or something like that. But you know that everybody that's great, like, no, there's no such thing as talent as such. Like, if you're a fucking UFC fighter or a basketball player or something like that, and you just happen to be 6'8", like, yes, that's something that you can't learn and all the rest of it. Like, if you want to call that a talent or a physical gift or a genetic gift, then absolutely, like there are definitely, very a load of different things you can think of that are down that line. Like some people are just better than others at certain stuff, but I think we all know that it is, if you want to get good at something, it is hard work, it is dedication, it is discipline, it is a grind, it is not enjoying it, it is failing, it is all that shit, all that stuff we say again and again and again. It is all that stuff, and I think people know that. And it's either that they don't think about it, they think about it and don't care, or they subconsciously are aware of it and they fucking stuff it down because they don't want to know, don't want to see the world that way, don't want to include that information in, don't want to assimilate that information into their mindset or anything because it seems hard or difficult or whatever else, and they've got an aversion to that sort of stuff. And that's what it is, man. That's what I think it is. Like, I don't know. Fucking Scottie Pippen was 5'6", whatever it was, and he was one of the best. He was an NBA All-Star because he tried hard, because he kept putting that grind in. And like I said, people know that. We all know that. But yeah, and again, it's condescending of me because I'm not suggesting that I do it. Whatever, I do work hard, and I've built up a business and stuff. In terms of it being the daily grind, it definitely is. It's definitely not pleasant 100% of the time. You know what I mean? And I'm obviously trying not to start off these sentences with, "Oh, well, in my experience," because I'm not like, I'm not like bossing it or anything. But yeah, people don't want to do the hard work, mate. And I think people know, which is the thing. Same as always. Like, I've got the information. With all of us, I've got the information to be a perfectly healthy 10% body fat, to be shredded and muscly, and to have perfect fashion sense. We all know what it is to be a perfectly decent human being, and yet time and time again, virtually nobody ever does it. We've all got a really good idea of what it is to be fulfilled and happy and content, and to be driven and motivated and all the stuff. And we've got all the precursors in his lives. It's like I've got all the ingredients in my fridge right now to make the sandwich, and I never fucking do it. I just eat the chicken because it's easier. Do you know what I mean? Because it's hard work to get the bread out and spread the butter on and shit like that. Because I don't want to fucking do it, even though the product becomes better than the sum of its parts and the rest of it. People are fully aware of the entire thing and they don't do it. I'm guilty of it in a load of areas of my life. Like, I know exactly what to do, and so does everybody. But then most people are fully aware. Just in diet's a really good example of that. Like, most people are, I would say, 95% of people are 100% aware of what it is to be healthy, what it is to be a low body fat, and nobody fucking does it. Very few people do it. And it's one of them where, like, the information of that doesn't translate into people's actions very well. And that bit there, assimilating the information around you, or you see like 10 million pieces of information with eyes every minute, and you only take in consciously like 100 of them or something like that. There's some statistic like that. It's mind blowing. That's the mindset. That's you. That's where you come in. That's where you artistically, charismatically, if you want, assimilate the information around you at all points. I choose to turn the news off. I don't listen to adverts because I'm in the center. I know what I'm doing. I block certain things off. I let certain things in. I assimilate certain things. You know what I'm saying?
Zero tolerance policy.
I know you're the same. Adverts, fuck you, adverts. I'm not having, if possible, not having a second of you in my life, that sort of thing. And I think that's where the mindset comes in a lot, because we've all got that information around us all the time. You always know. You always have known. You always will have that information. And like, actually fucking farming all that shit around you, having, excuse the corny metaphor sort of thing, but you have all them seeds growing in your backyard all the time, and yet you don't ever, you don't eat the fruit. You know what I'm saying? You don't do it. You don't ever take all that information in and then actually live a life based around what you know and always have known to be your greatest and best intention, or whatever it is. And so you look around, like, how many people have these like health epidemics and obesity and drinking and smoking and drugs and all these things, and like, the fact that people know it's bad doesn't change a chuffing thing.
Yeah. What you said earlier reminded me of something that I heard about school children, and a poll that was done when the teachers asked, I don't know if it was like UK wide, it might have been in America, but it was quite recent, maybe a year or two ago, and it showed that the vast majority of children, when asked what do they want to be when they grow up, they answered famous.
Yeah.
And they don't want to be great, they don't want to be brilliant at football, they don't want to be as good a singer as Beyonce. The majority of people don't want to be the next Da Vinci or Leonardo DiCaprio. They just want to be famous. Like, that was the majority of the kids' answer. That's That's disappointing.
Oh, it is, isn't it? It is. But there you go. I think turn your fucking eyes away from it, man. That's what it is. That's what I'm doing. Just do what you like. If that's what you want, then fine. But you won't be a part of my life.
Yeah.
Like, not that that matters to you. Not that's a judgment. That's not I'm better than you're worse or the way I don't think that's better. None of that. None of that shit. None of that meaning. But I don't want anything to do with somebody that thinks that way about stuff. So there you go. And I think the end result of that sort of thing will be a supremely disappointing, supremely unfulfilling life, and probably a generation after those kids will realize, and maybe hopefully, a generation of people after a war, for example, or like my nana's generation, who's like, she's 91 now, but like, much older, 2 generations older than me. She's naturally positive, really happy, and really like social oriented, community oriented because they lived through the Second World War. Well, I hope now we're going through a ridiculous patch of transparent political economic greed and a horrible consequences of those base shitty desires and urges in people in society where people do want to be famous, and the next generation of kids they want money, material things and stuff like that. I hope we start to see it now. And I hope that maybe our kids in 10, 20 years time will start to realize how unfulfilling, how bullshit, how transparent, how materialistic, and just how stupid that is. And there will be, hopefully, again, I'm optimistic, basically. I'm very optimistic in general, I suppose, about stuff. I'm very idealistic. And I hope there will be a sort of a rebound from that we start to see it now, the age of social media and with the internet, that people are actually supremely unfulfilling to live like that, and for that to be sort of the goals and the values and the way in which you operate in the world. Because I don't know, mate. It's bullshit. I just think it's bullshit. It's my opinion. I don't know. It fucking matters what I think, but
it'll maybe take that kind of resistance. It'll maybe take that 10, 20 years of people making pretty bad mistakes, which we've all done, but it looks like a generation of people are about to continue making those mistakes. Maybe it will take that for people to realize what is fulfilling and what is rewarding in life, and to sort of for us to go on that next step.
Yeah, I hope so, mate. I hope people will rebound. I think it's a human experience in it. And again, not to be condescending, it's Jack Cornfield is a meditation teacher. He's like, just calm me down immediately sort of thing. Like, he's got a few guided meditations on YouTube, and it was like, we're all humans. We all have this experience. Every one of his experiences, the full range of the 1,000 human emotions, pride and blame and joy and shame and all the rest of it. And that's what it is. That's your existence. You have all those different things. I just think our society, or the culture that I've seen right now, and it could be me projecting onto it over, but there's very deep expressions of all the really evil, all the corrupt, all the bullshit ones that seem to have managed to become actually big parts of powerful institutions in terms of like politics, banking, military, advertisements, stuff like that. Like, they're very powerful, very influential on culture, and they all seem to be ultimate expressions of the really shit human emotions. Like, if we all have the 1,000 one, I hope that people start to see it, become much more self-aware, and then we begin to sort of rebound, if you want. And over the next, some of the next generation of kids are going to start to realize that's what it is, and it's more about meaning and fulfillment than it is about material shit and hookers on speed dial, man.
Oh, don't take away the hookers on speed dial.
No, I call them Tuesdays, man.
Don't take them away from me.
Very good. So, I was just thinking back to Pokemon Go. I just had
Poke Epiphany.
But no, but and again, just talking about the generations of kids and stuff, it reminded me, like, in terms of where we're going in society, there's going to be some sort of VR thing, which is what we were saying before. It's like augmented reality, and I was interested. My nana thought that that my PlayStation was basically some kind of a witchcraft, right? And she's very old, obviously now, and she might be in her 70s or late 70s at the time. I remember I'd gone out to school one day, and she was like, "Oh, there was like a black box in your bedroom, like a whirring black box. Had these lights on it, and she's a northern woman, and she was like, had these lights on it, and it was like a blurring black box in bedroom light. I didn't know what it was, so I unplugged it, and that's my PlayStation. With like, it's my PS2. Do you know what I mean?
You're on your fucking build-up battle to the final boss on something. You purposely not turned it off because there was no save point available. You fucking bastard, Nana.
I couldn't find a save sphere on Final Fantasy X, and I'm fighting a boss or something. So I'm like, oh, all right. But like,
wow, that's an interesting. That's crazy, man.
No, but my Nana thought PS2 was witchcraft. My mum would shout to me like, turn that bloody game off and all that sort of thing. It's like, I'm going to be shouting at my kids, like, heal your HP. I can hear your manners low. You know what I mean? Like, we're going to get right in because I'm going to know all sorts of shit about these games. And it's interesting where it's going. Like, even in short periods of time, even over one generation, it's gone from like abhorrent evil technology, like some witchcraft, to most people being fully aware what games are and shit. And like I said, man, interesting dynamic Pokemon Go. Just to sum it all back up, that it went so social so quickly.
Yeah, like I said before, it was the speed and the scale of it which was shocking to me, and I'm interested to see. Probably not going to be. Well, we'll see. Let's judge it on its own merits. But the next one of these things that comes along, these sort of fad style phenomenon, like sort of app-based games, I'm not so sure I'll be as quick to jump on the bandwagon. And it was mainly because, not that I don't know, I think anything bad of the Pokemon Go experience, just because I felt like I wasted a lot of my time. What not inevitably, in the end, seemed to not have really any depth to it, which I was looking for, which is a shame because not all video games are created equal. Some do have depth, some do have value, and I don't feel like this one. Overall, the summary is that it can go away now. I'm fine with it not being in my existence. But yeah, what about you?
I was never going to play it. I'm still not going to play it. I've no plans to ever. I wouldn't have the same experience as you because I'm not in an urban centre sort of thing. I thought it was. It did remind me of like viral videos and stuff like that. Where something can just take off, or some sort of social trends can become like that. And I think more and more there's been more things that are like that. That are, YouTube videos and stuff is the example I'm thinking of, like viral videos and stuff, where overnight something can get like 14 million views, or there was, I think it was Gangnam Style or something, or one of them ones. There's a new video that
was huge, wasn't it?
It got something like 2 billion views on YouTube, and she's like loads and loads of people doing it. And I think it's showing us more and more that people are connected like that. That people in modern society, if you're on the internet, if you've got access to these artifacts, if you want these gaming artifacts, videos, just media, and game as a form of media, whatever, as a form of as like an artifact in that way.
Building blocks of witchcraft.
Yeah. Your little occult symbols, like a cauldron in which you could throw the eyes of Newt in and shit. But all that sort of shit, it was just an expression of that, man, that it was like, we are a lot more connected these days. Obviously, like, loads and loads and loads of us. And if something can become popular, if something can captivate enough people, it will generally exponentially grow into something that's like much bigger than itself. And I'm just really happy that Niantic put in the social element of it, because that was really interesting. And the fact that people getting fit, that was really cool.
Yeah, I agree. There are definitely positives to it, and it opened my eyes to what is possible with those kind of things. Like, if something comes along and it has like a myriad of benefits to your health and your lifestyle and all that sort of stuff, and it was something like that we couldn't even perceive, and something like that takes off and starts to make a little dent and an impact on the way that this ship's going, then that could be pretty fucking cool. So let's keep his fingers crossed that the next thing isn't just some kind of monolith that is probably going to gain some sort of McDonald's sponsorship deal, so that maybe you only have to go buy 3 Big Macs in a row and you can get a rare Pokemon or something like that. I wouldn't be surprised if that's the next thing that they do with it. But yeah, fingers crossed that you don't have to go into McDonald's to interact with the next big phenomenon.
Yeah, collecting points or stamps or something every time you rob an old woman.
Yeah.
10 beatings and you get a free game or something.
Every time you stab a child, you get a reward, like a little gold star.
Yeah, Toddler Punch. That's a new one.
Yeah. Toddler Punch.
Toddler Punch.
Yeah.
Something like
Greater
that.
dishonor to the toddler.
Right, it's getting offensive now, man. I've got to get going. I got
Run.
to bed and shit. Go on, you got another one.
No, I was just saying run.
Oh,
Run
right,
from
right.
the backlash from the offensive comments.
Right,
What do you want to do for the next one of these?
I've got a load of different topics. 3D printing is the one I was thinking of.
Ooh.
I've got a load of different ones. Basically, I have this. Again, I might eat my hat. I might eat the hat that I have. I think that one of these days, right, there's going to be an affordable 3D printer that just comes out, and then it's gonna be just at the right time. It's going to be affordable, widely distributed, the right price, and people are just going to buy it. And then all of a sudden, we're going to have 3D printing. And I think I don't know. I don't know how to say these things. I reckon it's going to be like a fucking a revolution. You know what I mean? Like an industrial revolution. There's a million different fucking things, because they can print off body parts, medicine that's tailored straight for your body. You can print off food and shit like that. And I think at some point, I don't know when, but at some point soon, and I have a feeling soon, something is just going to come out that's going to, like I said, it's going to be the perfect combination. It's going to be the perfect storm, and it's going to absolutely sweep through, at least our, British society, or maybe like American culture and stuff, like some of the Western cultures. So I found a few articles that were super interesting about specifically that, about medicine that was tailored to your body, about so all that sort of stuff that was like, if you break the handle on your fridge, you could just print out a new handle for free, and then there'd be microtransactions for printing off the blueprint. Like you go on the website for Beco, whatever it is, for your boiler, and you could just print off a new flap from the cover made out of plastic. And I found that there's a few of them that you can print off in metal, glass, ceramic, plastic, and something else. But you can print off food and shit like that. And I reckon, like I said before long, something's just going to come out and like blow everybody away. So I want to get in now because I don't know what it is. And like I said, I might be completely wrong, but I have a feeling it's going to happen soon. So there you go. There's my prediction. There's my recorded prediction of it. I reckon in the next couple of years, something's going to just fucking blow us all away. So that's what I want to do. 3D printing, and there's a load of super interesting, like life-changing shit that's going to happen from that. So I want to talk to you about that. What do you think?
Yeah, man, that sounds awesome. Let's do that as the next one.
Sweet, dude. Well, it's been awesome as always, mate. I think that was another good one. How long have we been going? Like an hour and 10 or something?
Yeah, something like that.
The same as the others. All right, mate. It's been awesome.
Yeah, man. I'll catch you in a bit.
All right, cool, man. See you in a bit.
Bye.